check, check.
Good evening.
I don't think it's on.
I think it's on.
Oh, no.
It's on. I just have to stand closer. I just feel like I'm going to knock the podium over. Thank you for all being here tonight. I'm Pam Lanham, editor and co-owner of the Hinsdalean. My business partner, Jim Slonoff, publisher, many of you know him as photographer and jack of all trades, is here along with Ken Knutson, our associate editor. And my daughter Ainsley is in the back, who may be swinging around to pick up index cards later, we'll see. But we appreciate you coming and all the candidates for attending tonight. We're also grateful to the Community House, with whom we are partners, for providing the space for us tonight. I'd also like to thank in advance and introduce our moderator. He instructed me to introduce him as the WGN 4 p.m. news anchor, investigative reporter, and fellow Hinsdalean, Ben Bradley.
Bravo.
Instruction was, please don't read my bio. Nobody cares. Just be quick. Here's one sentence.
I do think I would be underreporting the story if I didn't mention the 5 Emmys that he's won for breaking news coverage and 2 Illinois Broadcasters Association Silver Dome Awards for investigative reporting and a documentary on the legacy of former Mayor Richard M. Daley. We're also proud to have him as a member of our Reader Advisory Board. He is going to take things from here, so please join me in welcoming Ben Bradley.
You did not follow instructions. One sentence. Good to be with you all. For, as Kay reminded me, we've now been doing this, or at least I've been doing this with the Hinsdalean for a decade, so I guess that means I've been in town 12 plus years now. So thank you also to our candidates, as I'm sure they can attest and their families can attest. It is not easy to put yourselves out there and to face both criticism and compliment, not to mention an unbelievable amount of questions. So thank you to our candidates, and thank you to you all for caring enough to come out and listen. So let me run through the format for this evening. Each candidate will have the opportunity to make a 2-minute opening statement. Then I'm going to ask the same 8 questions of all candidates. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. If there's time left, I'll ask them additional questions. Each candidate will also have the opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement. This event's going to end at 8:30 tonight. Candidates, please pay attention to the time. We have timers. Jim is our Vanna White tonight. He'll be flashing you how much time you have left. Questions were submitted in advance by readers of the Hinsdalean, and they were written by its staff. Priority was given to those questions believed to be of the greatest general interest. People who want to submit their own questions tonight, you can do so by using the index cards that are scattered about the room. Simply raise them up when you're finished. Someone will be around to pick them up. In the interest of time, no questions are going to be asked from you. They'll come up to me. We have a few minutes at the end. I'll try to get to them. Sounds good? Sounds good. All right, we're going to start with our opening statements. Asma, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Can we hear me? Yep, there we go. Thank you to the Hinsdalean for organizing tonight's event, and thank you, Mr. Bradley, for moderating. Good evening, everyone. That's your cue for saying good evening. You're taking my minutes away. No, it's all good. My name is Asma Akris. Education has been my passion for the past 20 plus years, where it all started in our local community. My parents moved into the area when I was in high school. I've been in the community for the past 30 plus years. I have 3 kids. My oldest 2 actually graduated from Hinsdale South, and I have a current freshman student in Hinsdale South. I am the only candidate with a background in education. I currently hold a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and I'm enrolled in a doctorate program. I work for a nonprofit company where I have the opportunity to train principals across the country and support schools with implementation of curriculum. This election is really important. The new seated board will have the responsibility of hiring a new superintendent and an assistant superintendent of academics. My expertise will allow me the opportunity to hire the most qualified candidates for these positions. Once these candidates are hired, I, along with my fellow board members, will hold the administration accountable to the highest standards of academic excellence, especially leveraging my skills of someone who understands school systems, who has the ability to analyze data, and make sure to use the appropriate questions. I'm also the only candidate from Hinsdale South attendance area. I will represent all D86 students and listen to all stakeholders. It's important that the school board has representation of both schools. They both bring their unique strengths and challenges. I, as a South parent, community member, and an expert within the field of education, will bring the voice of South. I'm hoping tonight you'll hear more about my platform. Thank you for this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Andrew Catton, candidate for Board of Education. I am running to break the cycle that the district has suffered for the last 10 years. As is detailed in my campaign literature at the back, both high schools have been in severe decline for over 10 years, with the last 4 of those being the worst. I actually moved here with my family 5 years ago. I've got 3 future children that I plan to send to D86. I started attending board meetings a little over 2 years ago as I recognized, like many throughout the country, that we needed to question whether we were getting the quality of education that our kids deserve, and we're told that we were to expect. And as I began attending these meetings, I recognized that what we were being told isn't what is actually being executed, and that the district is failing to meet its obligations to all of us. Mainly students, but certainly to the taxpayers and parents who are supporting this education here. With that said, I hope that my answers tonight will win you over, and on April 4th, you'll vote for Andrew Catton. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kay Gallo, and I would like to thank the Hinsdalean, Ken, Pam, and Jim for hosting this again. My husband and I have lived in Clarendon Hills for over 38 years. We moved here to start and raise a family. Our 3 children attended and graduated from Marker District 60, a feeder district, a sender district, Hinsdale Central, and state universities. I previously served 2 terms on the District 86 board from 2009 to 17 and was the president for the last 2 years of my tenure. Prior to my District 86 service, I served on the Marker District School Board after co-chairing their successful $24.8 million building referendum. For decades, District 86 was a beacon of excellence in the areas of the academics in the classroom and the behavior and character of the board and district administration. When my now grown children graduated from Central, they, along with their peers, were exceptionally well prepared to meet the academic challenges they faced in college and beyond. In the last 4 years, significant curriculum and grading changes have rolled out unpiloted and at a rapid and irresponsible pace. Instead of providing equitable opportunities for all students to realize their full potential, academic expectations have been lowered, standardized test scores have declined, and rapid-fire changes have impacted teachers' abilities to meet all students' academic and social-emotional needs. The district administration and outgoing board members have shown intolerance, disdain, and indifference towards individuals who have questioned these changes and requested data to support them. It is for these reasons, amongst others, I have decided to return to board service. My prior board experience has proven that I am prepared to advocate for all the needs of the students while managing the district's resources in a fiscally responsible manner. It is important to note that a well-functioning school board has 3 primary objectives: to employ the superintendent, to set the direction and purpose of the district, and to monitor the performance of the superintendent. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you to the Hinsdalean for hosting this event, and thank you, Ben, for moderating, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Catherine Cat Greenspan. I've been a D86 resident for 9 years. My husband and I chose the D86 community when I was newly pregnant with my son, and it was based upon high school data. I have been actively engaged on both campuses for 4 years through district committee assignments, PTAC and CELT, and volunteerism. I am the Hinsdale Central PTO Vice President, Hinsdale Central Music Parents Association President, and am a Hinsdale Central Community Action Team member. I have board experience in Greater Chicagoland through my service on the Museum of Science and Industry Board, as well as the YWCA of Metro Chicago Board. I am running at this particular time for the D86 Board of Education due to the constant and disruptive academic, curricular, and discipline policy changes over the last 7 years. Changes that have not provided measurable positive results in student growth and achievement, all student growth and achievement. For example, proficiency from 2017 to 2022 dropped 7 points to 71% in ELA and 3 points to 72% in math at Hinsdale Central, and at South dropped 15 points to 39% in ELA and 14 points to 39% in math. D86 has eliminated courses with embedded interventions that supported students below grade level that were delivering unprecedented results in just 1 year. It's time for our district to support all student growth and achievement through data-driven initiatives that maximize each student's full potential. As a board member, I will drive thoughtful conversation around data sets while receiving and respecting the perspective of students, teachers, and the community. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good evening. I wanted to first of all thank the Hinsdalean for having this, as well as Ben for moderating. A little bit about myself. My name is Debbie Willoughby. I live in Westmont. I have 2 sons. My oldest is a junior at Hinsdale Central, and I have an 8th grader who is chomping at the bit to get to Hinsdale Central next year. He can't wait to go. And for me, education is something that is incredibly important. And it started for me as a young child and seeing what it can do for your family. My father was a first person in his family to go to college, which, given that he suffered from severe dyslexia to the point that when he was in 5th grade, my grandmother used to read him his comic books. He was told he was stupid, he was told he was lazy, he was told he was incompetent. This man later went on to college, and he worked on the project for the Saturn V that got the man to the moon, and on the Human Genome Project. This was a man that just needed to have somebody take the time and the attention and willingness to meet him where he was in his educational journey to help him. And thank goodness he had my grandmother. This was in the 1940s and 1950s, so we didn't know a lot about dyslexia back then. I also saw my brother in the 1980s and 1990s suffer from dyslexia and getting struggles to get the help that he needed when he was in school. And I now have one of my sons who also is dyslexic, and I remember him coming home from school at age 7 and telling me how stupid he was because he couldn't read like his friends could read. These kids and other kids with different learning differences or different, social behavioral things that they might be dealing with, children need help. They need to be met where they are, and that is what the school should be doing. That is what public education should be doing, and that's what I want to make sure is being done if I'm elected to school board. I think it's also important that we have collaboration. I've worked for 20 years for a multinational company in finance. I'm currently the head of finance for a $1 billion business. And the way that we get things done is you have KPIs, you have metrics, you work together, you collaborate, and you get things done. And to me, that is what needs to be done in this district. Thank you.
All right, thanks to our candidates. You'll see as we go through, each candidate will have the opportunity to go first. So Asma went first on the opening statements. Andrew, you're going to get the first question. Each candidate will answer the question, and then we'll go on to the next one. Make sense? I'm doing all this without a teleprompter. You all should be very impressed. First question for Andrew. Do you support the new 4-year teacher's contract? Why or why not?
I do not, for a couple of reasons. To start, we understand why the administration pushed so hard to get the max levy increase through in December, because clearly they were, as we see now, negotiating a contract behind closed doors with the union, and they needed to pay for that. That's now come to light. And any time when you have an administration happy with what they received in a union contract, and the union just as happy, you specifically in the education realm, you can be sure that students and taxpayers are the ones who lost. And with this contract, as you see that value-added classroom time has been reduced to over pre-pandemic levels. It's critical that kids spend that time in the classroom learning, and that they need and are behind from that interruption in their educational careers. And the fact that our administration that signed this agreement and the union is okay with it is appalling to me. So where I would stand, actually, if elected to the Board of Education, I would ask the union to come back to the table, because this was not a student-first agreement that was passed.
Okay.
Because I've had experience with quite a few contract negotiations, I believe a successful negotiation occurs when each side walks away thinking they didn't get everything they wanted. There's always going to be another round of negotiations. The cadence of the contracts, we had a contract being done 2016 to 20. Had COVID not hit, the next cadence would have been from 2020 to 24. But because COVID hit in the spring of 2020, all contract negotiations needed to be done. This contract negotiations needed to be finalized before the new board took over. I'm hopeful that I will be on the board in the next cycle, where the next contract will be under advisement, and I will like to have a seat at the table for that. Thank you.
I apologize in advance. I have not had the opportunity to fully review the new CBA. What I will tell you is what I have reviewed is more around finance, and the district is in good shape to support the CBA as the raises are described. PTEL is specifically mentioned, so there is a 5% cap annually for raises. The first year is 4.25, which represents a couple $1 million. What is interesting to me is year 2 describes an option for student interventions and support. So there's 2 separate options for teachers, and depending upon negotiations for year 2, students, the interventions will be more robust in option 2. So I'm very much hopeful that the new school board, as well as the teachers union and administration, will work closely together to make sure option 2 is taken full advantage of. I believe our teachers will. Thank you.
From my perspective, I do think that negotiations need to be a situation where both parties are able to get some of what they are trying to achieve. I think when I look at this particularly from a financial standpoint, I think it does take into account, teachers' needs from a salary perspective, factoring in inflation and things like that, and making sure that they're being compensated accordingly. But at the same time, it's not at a huge amount. And, similar to what Kat was saying, given the district funding, I think it is something that financially we can't afford. I think it's something, though, that we need to make sure that we're continuing to make sure that the kids are getting the appropriate support that they're needing, that they're getting appropriate class time and support for those teachers. And as long as we continue to have those negotiations and keeping in mind that the most important thing is that we're keeping the education of these students at the forefront, and making sure that they're getting quality class time is going to be the most important thing for us to do as we go forward.
Sorry, can you just, I want to make sure I heard the.
Do you support the new 4-year teachers contract? Why or why not?
Yes, I do. This was just passed with a 5 to 7, there was 5 board members who approved, 2 did not. And so that is a majority of the board that did approve the contract. As Kay said, anytime that you have parties such as the board and the union coming in with compromises and coming out with a contract that is passed, that is a win-win for any school district. I also want to applaud the teachers for their negotiation in terms of increasing actual instructional time per day. The teachers have extended their work day in this contract. So I think this speaks volumes to the commitment of the teachers in D86 to the students. So I do approve and applaud that we have continued stability and that there was an agreement between the stakeholders.
Okay. Round 2. how would you evaluate the district's current financial position? We're going to start with Kay for this one.
After speaking with the CFO, I believe that the district is in a strong financial position. The CBA has been put to bed, to say, and it is within the parameters of what the district can afford. Mr. Stevenson does have an eye on capital improvement projects, and we're hopefully going to be doing a robust facilities program to watch out for those expenditures that still need to be done that were outside of the referendum dollars. So I believe that the district is in a strong financial position, but we're always on the lookout to make sure that we're spending the monies in the right way.
This coming school year, which would be school year 24, we're in reasonable shape. We're pretty solid. The next couple of years after that, maybe it's going to be a lot tighter than we're used to. Transportation costs came in at 27% above what they originally were projected at, as well as utilities. We also have multiple collective bargaining units whose contracts will be coming to an end next year and the year after, that we're going to have to be taking a very close look at, the new board. And fundamentally, the cost of educating and providing every opportunity for student growth and success is growing every year. Year-over-year investment by our community into our district needs to be cherished, honored, and we need to make sure that every dollar that is spent in our district is spent as close to our students as possible. Thank you.
Based on the conversations I had with the CFO, as well as based on my own research, the district is in a good financial position. There's good cash reserves on hand, and given the referendum that was recently done, a lot of the capital improvements have been in place. As far as it goes into the budget, yes, transportation costs have gone up, but the district is looking at how they can mitigate that through different means. And I think some of the other costs that are, more fluctuating, they're looking at ways that they can mitigate that, and they will be able to manage the budget. I think for me, what is a question is how do we continue to manage the capital improvements as part of the district? A lot of work has been done recently to take care of what had not been done in the past, right? And I think there still are capital things that need to be improved and capital expenditures that need to be made. And so the question is, how do we make sure that we budget for that? Based on conversations with the CFO, that work is being done, but we need to make sure that the district isn't put in a situation that it's neglecting its capital structure anymore, because that will cost us a lot more in the long run. So good financial health, but I think we still need to make sure we're doing our due diligence.
Yes, our district is in good, solid financial situation. Again, based on my conversations with our chief financial officer, I went into the detail with the budget. Also, according to our Illinois state report card with evidence-based formula where the state looks to allocation of the funds, we rank above 90% in terms of how our funds, there's always room for improvement, but we are solid in our finances.
Not surprising, I have a different perspective than everyone else here. With the district forecast to be spending its reserve within the next 2 years, I would challenge the fact that we are in good financial position. With the new CBA that was just signed, the new board will be handcuffed with budgets well over $100 million going forward. And as long as you're fine with spending other people's money, that's okay. But I actually want to try to represent the taxpayers that finance this district. And there are a lot of opportunities for improvement. Better allocation of resources for maximum student benefit will certainly be an area of focus for me. After observing the district's inability to identify any opportunity for cost reductions to offset the max levy increase forced through in December indicates there is very loose oversight of district finances.
Okay.
Oh,
did you start?
Did you want me to go again? I get to do
Yes,
over?
actually, can you give us the
Yes.
Next time they can get a different moderator. You get what you pay for, Pam. Yeah. All right, our next question. Do you support the current curriculum alignment strategy? Kat, we're going to start with you.
Yes and no. I applaud the efforts made by our administration and our teachers in the curriculum alignment. However, it is very clear that in providing the same course offerings at both campuses, so district-wide course offerings, that the way that the actual courses are taken or chosen by students looks differently, and that causes a lot of angst in our community and division. If you look at our district, we have 2 campuses, and I liken them to twins, not identical, but fraternal twins. Each campus is unique and beautiful in its own way and has very specific student needs and choice. And we need to honor that commitment and the differences and support and applaud all of our students. Thank you.
I am supportive of curriculum alignment. I think it's important that the students in both campuses have access to the same academic courses that the other campus has. So I think that is something that is important and that we should be giving the kids at both campuses the opportunity to have that. I think we need to make sure that we don't do it in a well thought out, plan phased manner. And that is given as an opportunity to the students. If some classes for low class enrollment or things like that are not able to be taught at one campus and only at another, I think we need to come up with creative solutions and creative ways that we can make sure that those kids get the exposure and get the chance to take those academic classes that maybe isn't offered at their campus because there's not enough student enrollment and financially it's a bit difficult, but I think there are ways that we can creatively do it and should look at that a bit more deeply. Thank you.
So as someone who is committed to the field of education, continues to follow the research, current research where education is in our country, I am in full commitment for continuing the curriculum alignment. Curriculum alignment is vital in terms of making sure that we are giving equitable access for every student in both campuses to equal opportunity to the courses. Alignment in curriculum allows us as adults and as key stakeholders to have accountability on the school system itself. When you have curriculum alignment, then you are guaranteed that every student in the district will have the same opportunity to the coursework that they are going to choose. And so that is why it is very vital to continue curriculum alignment, to hold that accountability. When we talk about curriculum alignment, we're thinking about holding teachers, departments to the standards so that, again, every student is getting the same opportunity, whether at South or at Central. Where the details differ is depending on the department and the teachers. There is where they will have their freedom, but as long as we have curriculum alignment for both the schools, that is where we're going to make sure that we have given every student an equal opportunity for the curriculum.
My answer is both yes and no as well, because it makes sense to have a general program of courses, but because there are 2 different distinct populations between the high schools, to meet the needs of all students, you would have to have differentiation between the 2 high schools. So you wouldn't have the exact same curriculum offered at South versus Central. For instance, there may be students performing at the underperforming grade level where we need those foundational courses at both high schools, one or the other. It would be determined by student need. The curriculum needs to be flexible enough to address what the students actually need and what, at the other end, what students may want or may qualify for. Ignoring the needs of those students to make a one-size-fits-all strategic plan work is a bad idea.
Again, I am a yes and no kind of answer here. That I believe the district has really tried to do curriculum alignment, but they're falling short. They're not valuing the differences between the two campuses. And they haven't come up with any creative solutions in order to meet every child where they find them. Technology could be utilized so much better. I was really taken aback when the teachers were doing Zoom during COVID, where there's more technology, there's cameras that can be purchased, there's cameras that could have been purchased that follow the teacher in the classroom. So it could have been a more robust, interactive between the teachers and between the students while we were going through COVID. Other schools had that technology. Why didn't we? And the unpiloted curriculum alignment has really bothered me. When the policies changed so rapidly and they got rid of all the nuances that our district has put in policies, unpiloted things are not good for the district. We really need to go back to testing tried and true and not making our children guinea pigs.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you've got a question, looks like we're actually making decent time, which never happens at these things. So if you've got a question, write it on the index card. Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up. No. I did a candidate forum with Lightfoot and all 9 candidates for mayor a month ago, and it was a hot mess. So you guys are doing much better. I blame the moderator.
Do you want us to change?
No, please
change
don't.
It up? Okay.
Alrighty, so just wave your index card up and when and if you have a question, we'll try to get to it. Alrighty, question 4. Do you support the changes made to district grading practices? If yes, explain why. If not, what would you do instead? Debbie, we'll start with you.
So I think from my perspective, it's important to have commonality or equality across the district grading practices and making sure that, regardless if you're taking a class in math, for example, at Hinsdale Central, and 2 students have 2 different teachers at Hinsdale Central, and that they're grading differently, or if you have one student at Hinsdale South with obviously a different math teacher than somebody at Hinsdale Central, they need to have similar grading practices so that it's consistent grading and that an A in one class is the same and means the same as an A in a different class. So I do think it's important. So I am supportive of the policy that's in place. I think it's important as well that the different departments have some autonomy to be able to have flexibility in how they do things. For example, do you have the ability to make up a test or not? Do you have an ability to do missing work, and that there's consistency across those departments, I think is important so that they can handle things in a way that makes sense for them. But at least everybody in that department is being consistent in the way they manage things. So I do think that has been done well.
So again, as someone who has expertise in curriculum instruction and assessment, I do agree with the fact that within a governing board, again, the District 86 board will be the governing board for both the schools. So there has to be alignment between curriculum and assessment policy. Again, this creates an equitable opportunity for every student in D86. My one differing opinion on the assessment policy has been with the formative summative assessments. I do agree with final exams. I also agree with summative assessments and formative assessments. My disagreement is with the percentage of how much we weigh summative in comparison to formative. I do believe that formative needs to be a bit increased to give students more opportunities to show their learning pathway so that once the summative comes, we are, as teachers, the teachers should be able to make sure they know where the students are at in that learning pathway. Otherwise, again, it's crucial to have an assessment policy across both schools.
The fact that in 2023, D86 has not figured out common sense grading practices is an indictment of leadership. And certainly is a reason that I'm running, I'm running because we have a lack of quality leadership. In regards to the forced changes that were pushed through, not announced to students and parents until basically day of, was clearly a terrible idea. And again, it is just a symptom of the problem when you have poor leadership, you'll get terrible outcomes. In this case, it's affecting the students, and you see it in the proficiency scores. So no, the changes in grading were a bad idea.
Well, I think once again, the district tried to do a good thing with the grading changes, but fell way short. The grading changes have been chaotic, I believe, to both teachers and students, and not well thought out and not executed well. It's a sad state of affairs when so much unnecessary angst and stress was caused to the students after the global health crisis. And how have these grading changes benefited the students? I believe that instead of doing these things from a knee-jerk reaction, they need to be well thought out, they need to be planned, they need to be piloted, they need to be well communicated to the students and teachers and parents, which we have a full communication staff, and I believe it's not being utilized to its full maximum potential. And as I agree with Mr. Catton, you know, the leadership has really lacked, and we can do better. We deserve better.
The current grading policy at our district is actually the policy that was in place a year and a half ago, when our school year had already started for our students and our teachers, and the district changed grading policy while the school year was in production. I think the rollback does indicate the administration and the board's willingness to hear, or really the administration, because it was a superintendent's decision. But what I would suggest to you is that there's a lot of discussion following normal cadence for initiative review and change at the board table, following community conversation, PTAC, and then introduction via the agenda at a board meeting. It is clear to me that there is some discussion, real discussion around formative and summative assessments. It's really important for students that repetition for content comprehension to be reviewed very regularly on content in the course, as well as the end of a semester or the end of a unit, some type of culminating project or a test, so the teacher can understand where the student's comprehension is also. So we really need to follow this issue as a community very closely. It's coming up.
Okay. Round 6. What's your opinion of the district's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives? We're going to start with Asma.
I currently serve on the SELT committee, which is the Cultural Equity Instructional Leadership team that I had volunteered as a parent, and I'm getting firsthand knowledge in terms of what the administration's role in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. What's really important is, again, we look at the data and making sure that when we think about diversity and equity, we're thinking about all our population of our students. A lot of times this conversation is narrowed to only racial or ethnic conversations. However, it actually is much broader. When we look at our DEI conversations, we're including students of low socioeconomics, we're including students of special needs, so we're including a whole bunch of group of students so that we want to make sure that we are supporting them. My commitment is, as board members, to continue making sure that we're looking at the various populations in the school district, and we're looking at the achievement gaps, and that we're supporting each group of students to make sure that they are attaining their best ability that they can.
It was Tammy Prentice that brought DEI formally to D86, under the premise of Hinsdale's a dangerous place. That's something I wholeheartedly reject. In December, those words should ring true to everyone here because you should have heard them at this point. Those were words that she edited purposely of a anti-racist consultant who had resigned in an attempt to blame and shame the district into accepting her services. This is a reoccurring theme from Tammy, as this was her third attempt to bring on anti-racist consultants at significant expense with no regard for input from the community. Just the agenda she and that Board of Education majority, the current Board of Education majority, wanted to push. In addition, the current Director of Instructional Equity is paid partially through resources from special education. I believe that those funds should be returned to the proper use and benefit of students most in need. I follow the wisdom of Dr. King's vision that people are worth more than just the color of their skin. I believe that kids are valued more than just labeled identity. So what I would view that the district can improve upon and encourage is the robust mechanisms that have delivered natural diversity and inclusion outcomes historically practiced to great effect. A focus on character building, merit, empathy, ethics, and integrity, which can be implicit and practiced regularly in education. If done properly, diversity and inclusion outcomes will proliferate naturally to the continued benefit of our students. Thank you.
I agree that the staff should be trained in recognizing, acknowledging, and addressing microaggressions towards all those students that may be viewed as different. And in my opinion, every student is different. Kids want to make it through the day without being embarrassed. And I think we need to train our staff a little bit better. They do a wonderful job, but they do need to acknowledge and then address at the time of it happening so the kids can learn. And we want our staff to model the behavior. We want our students to show each other so that everybody feels that they're in a safe and inclusive environment. So I would like to broaden the DEI conversation to where we include every student, every person that comes through the doors. Thank you.
So DEI in a public school system is actually mandated, it's legislated. So in 2015, the Voices legislation specifically was designed to address disparity and inequity in discipline. And in 2017, legislation was passed to mandate public school systems and teachers go through implicit bias training. Further, the Illinois State Board of Education is now evaluating public school systems on a mechanism, a tool called the Equity Journey Continuum, which one piece of it that I find troubling for me in particular is they specifically ask for an increase year over year of students in specific demographics taking upper level courses. I am not at all against that. What I am against is that they're not asking for the grading, how the student did, and growth data based upon that student. It does not help. I believe that true DEI conversations brings everybody to the table. Every student is considered and must be made to feel part of the conversation in order for any training or any discussions to be embraced and to move forward as a total unit. Thank you.
I think DEI goes much beyond, the color of your skin, your gender, your sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, religious beliefs, whatever the case may be. We all bring differences. And I think that that's something that we need to keep in mind, and it's something that the school has an obligation to help the students with. So from my perspective, we need to make sure that we're addressing things from a grading perspective. We can definitely see inequities in the grades and how our students are doing, both on SAT scores, on what their grades are across various classes, and that needs to be addressed, number one. Number two, we need to take a look at training for our faculty and staff. I have heard of several occurrences of things that for me were disturbing to hear. I don't think, and I'd like to think the staff did not intend to do it, But people need to realize the consequences of the words that they say and the actions that they take and how that might be perceived by others that they're speaking to, right? So I think training is something that would be very beneficial for the staff to go through. I also think it's important that we make sure that our faculty and staff is diverse, right? And it shows the diversity that is in our student body. So we need to take a look at the hiring practices that we have and make sure that we're bringing in people that represent the student body as well. And that is going to require us to make sure that we're broadening the pool of people that we're hiring from. These people are out there and we need to be able to find them and bring them into our district. I think it will add richness and education into the community and help our students.
You want me to answer again?
No.
Okay, I already.
Sorry.
That's all right. You were giving me that look like.
Yeah, no. What is the single most important qualification or quality the board should look for in a new superintendent? Andrew, we're going to start with you.
The single most important qualification would be an inspirational leader. One that can motivate both staff and students to live up to the expectations of excellence that we've defined here for this community. As that leader, it will filter down to the rest of the organization, and you'll see those results come quickly.
The single most important quality in our next leader would be experience to a destination district like ours. Experience, experience, experience. There are many more levels of quality that we should be looking for, though, but experience is the number one factor of a high school superintendent that worked in a caliber district as ours.
Single quality, you asked?
Yep.
Role model. Role model in such that the new superintendent needs to demonstrate the education appropriate, meaning a doctorate. 2, needs to model building trust and working relationships with administration, teachers, and the community, and it has to be shown historically throughout the career. 3, integrity. The ability to say, we are reassessing what we have done, and maybe it's not working out for all of our kids. And we will move forward looking at the totality of the data and try to put forth something that addresses all student needs and growth. Thank you.
So from my perspective, there are certain things that are just table stakes around education, experience, etc. But from a thing that is not a table stake perspective, the most important thing I think that new superintendent should have is the ability to be collaborative. That superintendent role needs to work closely with the board, needs to work closely with the staff and administration of the school, and needs to work closely with the community, the parents, the students, and others in our community. And collaboration is key, which includes listening, being able to synthesize that, being able to understand what the challenges are, and being able to work together to find the common solutions, communicating it well, and making sure that everybody understands where we're going. So to me, that most important thing is collaboration, and it's something that we're lacking in the current superintendent.
The question was the key.
You're making me work tonight.
I am. I'm the last one.
What is the single most important qualification or quality the board
Yeah.
should look for in a new superintendent?
The single most important qualification of a superintendent is that they are ensuring every student in D86 will get an opportunity for an excellent education. That is the most important quality.
Excellent. Alrighty. This one kind of dovetails off the last one. Kay, we'll start with you. How can the board continue to work effectively with a superintendent who has come under such criticism?
It's going to be something It's going to be challenging, but I believe that the board can do it because the superintendent does have another year in the contract. I know that because this board, the new board, I would hope would start off right away with very firm goals, very specific goals, measurable goals, KPIs, as has been stated by many others, key point indicators, and we need to really hold the superintendent accountable for the day-to-day operations of the district to get us back on track to try to solve these problems that have occurred because of the strategic plan. We already know that there's problems. Let's address them and let's start solving the problems. Let's get us back to where we were.
The board sets the tone for the district. The board sets the tone for the district. So it's really important for this board to immediately set the tone, and the tone should be laser focused on all student growth and achievement. The superintendent is obligated to implement policy and procedures and initiatives that support that student growth. Attending school board meetings over the last couple of years very regularly, as well as committee meetings, it is very clear that the superintendent and administration doesn't necessarily provide total data sets for the board to evaluate or give enough time for the board to thoughtfully consider initiatives. I also feel that teachers are often not part of the conversation when in fact they should be wholly part of the conversation. And the board needs to set that tone for our superintendent, whether it be Superintendent Prentice or any new superintendent hired. The board sets the tone. The board sets the goals. Thank you.
My view is that we need to be very clear in the goals and objectives of what we're trying to do. Where are we trying to go and what is expected, and hold the superintendent accountable for it. You put key performance indicators in place and you hold the superintendent accountable to deliver those by making sure that the right questions are being asked, the right data is being provided, and the right plans are being put in place. And regardless if that's Tammy Prentice or the new superintendent, I think that is critical. And that's the way we should go forward for the next almost year, a little over a year with Superintendent Prentice.
The priority is going to be to make sure that the board members themselves are in alignment in terms of how they're holding the superintendent accountable. And so the role of a board member is to hold the superintendent accountable to the school district. And so the role for the board member is not only to make sure that there is trust built between the candidates within the board, between the board members, and then collectively holding the superintendent accountable. The way that's going to happen is I have had the opportunity to review the current superintendent's goals. There aren't enough quantifiable, measurable goals for the superintendent to make sure that not only within the strategic plan, but also with the superintendent's goals, make sure that we are integrating measurable data to support growth and to support academic achievement. And so that is how we were going to go ahead and make sure that we are headed in the right direction.
Will you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. How can the board continue to work effectively with a superintendent who has come under such criticism?
As an experienced manufacturing executive, I find it most effective that you remove toxic people from the organization as soon as possible, because cancers only grow. You see Tammy Prentice's dysfunctional operation day in and day out at D86. I've viewed it for the last 2 years. I believe that the district is on good, solid footing, that with her removal, operations could easily still continue without detriment to student outcomes. So I would look to have her removed.
Okay, this is our first audience submitted question. Thank you all for submitting questions. Would you support late? Did I screw up?
No.
Are you mocking the moderator? Don't mock the moderator.
No, they're just having a conversation.
Yeah, we're gonna leapfrog down the way. Would you support late start Mondays by say an hour over early release Wednesdays? What is the max number of early release or late starts that you would support? Kat, I believe you get this first one.
Thank you.
According to the new CBA, we have a minimum of 28 early release Wednesdays over the course of each of the 4 school years defined. The early release Wednesdays moving forwards, beginning next year, are a little bit different. So it's actually that students are leaving roughly an hour, 20 minutes earlier than the end of the school day. I personally, based upon neuroscience, the neuroscience behind learning and the way that an adolescent brain works, I would prefer a late start to an early release for our students. It also gives parents time to plan to get their students to school, or for any of the things that they have going on in the morning before work to get them to school. I also think early release Wednesdays right now for our students are disruptive, given the increase in transportation costs and the cut of certain bus routes. I'm worried that kids will leave campus and then have to come back to participate in activities and athletics after school. And that places undue burden on our families. Thank you.
From my perspective, my preference would be to do a late start, similar to Kat. I think if you look at any neuroscience children, especially teenage children, their brains do better the later they start. So I think that would be beneficial. I also, similar to what Kat was saying as well, I think it's disruptive to have an early release for those students that have after-school activities, sports activities, things like that. It does make it quite challenging for them. So my preference would be to do the late starts.
So this stemmed from the teachers themselves, again, applauding the teachers in District 86 in terms of their commitment to the education of the students. This is part of union contract, so as a board member, this is something that I'm not privy to. It's more, again, coming from what teachers are advocating, and D86 teachers advocated for early release. I will share with you that one of the leading researchers in education in the country, John Hetty, created a meta-analysis looking at one of the most successful attributes to high academic achievement is teachers having the opportunity to collaborate so that they can support students. And so when you follow that research and recognize the importance of teachers having the time to collaborate with each other in order to ensure that students are achieving high academic excellence, that makes sense to me in terms of why in the contract that the teachers themselves, again, advocating for students to be able to make sure that the students are learning.
Common sense adjustments to the schedule, as long as we're not keeping kids out of the classroom like we are now under the current CBA, I would be okay with. So if it's late starts, I would keep it consistent across the week, but still keep the total length of the day the same. That's something that should be deliberated with the next Board of Education if any changes are suggested. But that decision should be defined by data and reviewed where it's been piloted elsewhere.
I've had the benefit of learning all about late start Mondays back in the day and early release Wednesdays currently. Change is challenging. Late start Mondays were completely frowned upon. And the parents didn't like them because they didn't know how to get their kids to school. And then the schools, it was chaotic for the schools because kids would come in tardy if they came in. It was haphazard. I believe the district has not done a good job in communicating why they changed from late starts to early release Wednesdays based on the metrics of, are the kids in school? When are the kids in school? More instructional time is good, but more instructional time is only good when the kids are there to instruct them. So there's the pros of collaboration time for late starts or early release, whatever. We need to give the teachers the collaboration time. The cons are always the transportations, because in late start Mondays, the con was transportation because we ran into the early bus routes were later, and we ran against the Center District bus routes. So there's pros and cons, and it needs to be analyzed better and communicated to the parents why it's done.
All right, our next question from the audience. This will go to Debbie. Based on comments made, D86 academics are failing. Are you suggesting to direct administration to direct teachers to teach to the SAT test? If not, what is your vision to improve the failing academics? I assume they mean not just SAT, but all the other standardized testing.
So I did not characterize D86 as failing from an academic standpoint. I don't think that is the case. If you look at D86, both schools are well above state average and are doing quite well. So let's be clear on that. Number two, teaching to the test is something that I personally really struggle with. To me, going to school and getting an education, it's about a love of learning, right? And I mean, to me, children should get that from the classroom, from their teachers, and it should be something that doesn't stop when they leave the classroom. It shouldn't be something that stops when they graduate from high school, right? It should be something that they should continue doing. And I think if you're teaching to the test, you're going to miss out on that. You know, this morning I actually had the opportunity to be at Hinsdale Central. They were giving out Student Achievement Awards. And one of the science teachers, he actually turned giving the award to one of his students into a science lesson. You know, it was really cool. And I mean, to me, that's how you learn, right? That's so much more important than the SAT scores and the test scores that kids are getting. And to me, what I think you will find is if that you are doing that well, the SAT scores follow. If you're just teaching to the test, I think we're failing our students.
I want to concur with Debbie that the word failing is absolutely inaccurate according to the data. We have a school district that has 99% in Hinsdale Central, freshmen on track, 99%. And Hinsdale South, 96%. So when we identify that as failing, I have concerns with that. Is there room for improvement? Of course there's room for improvement. Are the standardized SAT scores going down? They are, especially at South. The scores right now at South, it's 39% in ELA, 39% at math. That is concerning. And I am committed to make sure that we get back on track before we become a failing school district. And the way my suggestion is that we have to have that alignment of the strategic vision, the new superintendent, and here's what's key, is that each of the buildings, both South and campus, to keep to their own true campus student populations, their own challenges and strengths, is to create a school improvement plan where both the building administrators are held accountable to, again, quantifiable, measurable data to show academic growth.
No, we shouldn't teach to the test. And yes, the district is in decline. I encourage each of you to pick up one of my flyers in the back that details exactly what the data does show and what is straight from the Illinois State Board of Education report card, 2013 to 2022. Let me read you some of those proficiency scores. Hinsdale Central, score in 2013 for reading English or ELA, 88.7. This is the proficiency score of 11th graders. Today in 2022, it's 72.1. That's a drop of 16.6% in 10 years. Math, 89.3 in 2013. Today in 2020, or last year in 2022, 73.4, a drop of 15.9%. Skip ahead to South. 2013, 74.2 in 2013. In 2022, 39.3. Math in 2013 was 72.7. In 2022, 39.7. So yes, the district is in great decline, and that's why it's so urgent that we choose new leadership going forward to turn this around.
A state average is not good enough for this district. what has been changed in these past few years? We shouldn't be teaching to the test because our curriculum used to be robust enough that the tests came easy. College and beyond became easy for the students that matriculated out of Central and South, both Central and South. What has changed? The support, some of the support levels have changed. G and AR classes where the students were given their foundation before they went on to sophomore and junior and senior year. SAT tests or junior year. We used to be given an annual report, a standalone annual report showing student growth. The schools and the teachers were so in tune with showing the growth of a student. They might have come in at a very low level or not on grade level, but they rose so quickly that it was phenomenal and their doors were opened up. So I believe that we have to look at what have the changes that have been done, and it's been the curriculum changes, and we need to address that.
Based on comments made, D86 academics are failing. Are you suggesting to direct administrators to direct teachers to teach to the tests? If not, what's your vision to improve the failing academics?
So D86 is not literally failing, but they're certainly not living up to our community's standards. We moved here specifically, all of us, we live here specifically for well better than state average, state proficiency scores. A little clarification, 9th grade on-track data is reflective of whether or not a student, a 9th grader, has taken 5 classes per semester or 10 total classes their first year. It has nothing to do with the grade. It has nothing to do with proficiency. The state is only tracking whether they've taken 10 classes for the year. The proficiency data for freshman year is in fact the PSAT, and that is state mandated. So in 8th grade, proficiency is tested via MAP testing, state mandated. Freshman year, it's via PSAT. Sophomore year, it's via PSAT. And junior year, which is mid-year, is SAT data. That's the proficiency data we're speaking of. Teachers, standardized tests are based upon the entirety of the curriculum and the course material that a student should learn. So in fact, in a certain way, teachers are teaching to the test because they're teaching the content. However, I believe a lot of the initiatives, curricular initiatives, have watered down or decontented our classes, and it's not to the benefit of our students. Thank you.
Alrighty, our next submitted question. If you could get a magic wand and change one thing about the district, what would it be? Oscar?
Wow, I can dream right now, huh?
We can all dream.
Yes, we can all dream. If I was to have a magic wand, I think the dream is to look to the bright future that we have ahead of us and focus on bringing academic excellence for every student in D86.
Okay.
If I had a magic wand, I would go back in time and require the Board of Education in 2019 to actually perform a nationwide search for a new superintendent, because we likely wouldn't be going through the regressive outcomes for students, the decline in overall proficiency performance, the fiscal mismanagement that we've had to suffer for the last 4 years.
If I had a magic wand, I want the district to be at April 5th. But I digress. I think I'd want to make sure that all the kids are getting what they need, challenging them, having them feel comfortable and safe and as they belong in the schools, that every student wants to be there. Sometimes they don't really want to, but you know, that they would want to. And I want to bring that peace and safety onto all the students, where they don't have to worry about, is there going to be a threat today at school? Isn't there going to be a threat? Is there going to be a test? So, just having the kids feeling safe and assured in the schools as much as possible.
If I had a magic wand to wave over the D86 community, I would ask very loudly and very clearly for all of us, the entire community, to come together, put aside our differences in support of our students, all of our students, in support of their growth and their success. We can do this by advocating either as an audience member or sending emails to the board, or in this election to elect appropriate board members that will continually, tirelessly devote every ounce of themselves to the support and aid the growth of every student.
If I had a magic wand, I would really want to be able to make sure that all of our students were being able to get what they needed academically so that they could perform to the maximum amount of their potential. And I would also hope that each one of those students were able to get what they needed for their next stage in their life, whether that was getting the right support for college from their guidance counselors, whatever help they needed for vocational training, whatever it is that would get them ready for that next phase. I would hope that they would be getting all of that support that they needed as well.
Okay. And I think this is going to be our last question for the evening.
Yeah.
It's not over yet. What could D86 do to be more responsive to the community? Bunch of ideas thrown out in this card, but why don't we just leave the ideas to the candidates? Andrew, we'll start with you. What could D86 do to be more responsive to the community?
The idea of town halls has been thrown out there, but first they could extend some grace during the public comment period. The way that's been executed over the last 2 years, with board presidents gaveling out students who have cut out time of their day to come and try to express their feelings, or members of the community, they could certainly start there.
Okay.
I got ideas. Okay, comment time. We used to not have a timer. Do you believe that? We used to allow community members to come up and speak, and community members were always very cognizant that, they were taking time. They wouldn't repeat themselves. So comment time, I think, has gotten a little bit ridiculous. And then trying to publish the data for board meetings, just the board meetings themselves, the packet that is delivered out 48 hours before a board meeting? No, it should be, if the meeting's on Thursday, publish it on Friday so the board members at least can study it over the weekend, have questions for the community or for the administration, and then the public can see it also during their time. Publishing as reports are being done, making those live on board docs. I believe it can be done. That's why we went to board docs. Those are just 3 off the top of my head. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
What would you do to make D86 more responsive to the community?
First, I would make students the priority, which is the #1 priority for our community too. Second, I would encourage district administration, our FOIA officer, to not perceive any question or FOIA submitted as a full attack on the district. Third, when a community member comes to the administration or to make public comment during board meetings, I would respectfully ask all board members to engage, meaning make eye contact with the community. They have taken the time to come to the community, to the board meeting, to make public comment. It is something that is important to them, and everybody should have the opportunity to be heard and considered. Fourth, I would ask very much that the administration does not single out any part of the community, whether it be a campus or a group, and speak publicly in very negative tones and very negative words and disparagingly. It is unacceptable. If you attack one part of us, you attack all of us. Thank you.
I think from my perspective, it's all about communication. And communication isn't just what we're saying and how we're saying it, but it's also how we're listening, right? So I think it's important that the board and the administration and the district at large really listens to what's being said by the students, by the parents, by the community, by the staff, as well as making sure that we're communicating well. And that's how we communicate, to make sure that we're doing so in a respectful manner, and also what we're communicating, right? And making sure that folks are clear on why things are being done, why changes are being made, how we're going to make those changes, and the thought process behind it.
The priority will be to build trust. According again to the data, FOIA expenditures last year was $100,000. $100,000, which shows that there is a lack of trust between community members, the school board, and the administration. So it is going to be extremely crucial that we build trust again amongst the key stakeholders, and that goes for all parties, included the community, the board members, and the administration. Second is to make sure that the communication between the key stakeholders is open and transparent, is going to be also a key issue, the transparency. Thank you.
It's closing statement time. We're going to start with Kay. Each candidate's going to have 2 minutes to make a closing statement.
Voters should consider one important question. Who do you want at the board, in the boardroom, hiring the next superintendent and make the decisions at the board table? I have the experience necessary to make great decisions for our district. I served on the board from 2009 to 2017 and have worked with 2 prior superintendents in District 86 and 2 superintendents in Marker District 60. As board president, I worked with the superintendent on a weekly basis for 2 years. I have the experience to evaluate the performance of the superintendent, and I can state that our district deserves better than what we have today. In my opinion, the 4 remaining board members have not experienced a great or even a good superintendent. Do you want an inexperienced board members choosing the next leader, making the decisions? We need a superintendent that has experience with top performing schools such as ours, a superintendent that will engage with the community, and one that will not use our students as guinea pigs in educational experiments. Our district is off course, and hiring a superintendent is a critical step in getting back on track. I will be the voice of experience in the boardroom when the next superintendent is chosen. Thank you, and vote number 2, Kay Gallo, for Hinsdale District 86.
Again, I'd like to thank Hinsdalean for hosting this event, Ben for moderating, and all of you for attending. My main message, my platform is 100% supporting all students' growth and achievement. We have done a very bad job at it over the last 5 to 7 years. Proficiency data shows that there is not a lot of growth data that is shared with our community, even though it has been FOIA'd and asked for. And I know FOIA costs are high, but FOIA costs are high because we refer FOIAs consistently to our law firm. It's not necessary. It's public data, just give it. 2, the singular focus of our administration and our board should be all student growth and achievement. And I know I keep saying it, but it is astounding to me that over the last 5 to 7 years, it has not been the focus. Whether it is DEI, whether it is academic, whether it is curricular, or whether it is disciplinary, simply has not been the case. Our students deserve to be in a safe environment, a safe learning environment. They also deserve the opportunity and the choice to grow and succeed as much as possible. Vote Kat Greenspan. number 3 on the ballot. Thank you.
I think it's important to leave you with what I believe are the 3 most important things that I would bring to the board. Number 1, I think it's important for us to make sure that we get the district back on track and improving the educational results that we've been having. So that's the number 1 thing, and that's being done for all of our students across the district. Number 2, I think it's really important that we bring a spirit of collaboration, as not only a collaboration in the board, but also a collaboration across the board, the administration, the staff and faculty, the students, the community. And that's something that I think with my 20+ years experience working for a large multinational company and recognizing that I don't have all the answers, right? I am not the expert on everything. You need to rely on those around you and those people that have that expertise and know how to ask the challenging questions, get the data, and be able to make an informed decision based upon that. So that's something I think is very important. And finally, making sure that we have a clear view of where we want to go as a district. We're getting ready to come to the end of our current strategic plan. We need to make sure that we know where do we want to go. And as has been mentioned on this panel a few times, right, making sure that we have clear KPIs that are quantitative KPIs that we can make sure that we're measuring against as we go into the next 5-year strategic planning horizon. Thank you.
Thank you again to Hinsdalean for hosting tonight, and thank you, Ben, for moderating, and thank you to all of you for coming and your commitment to education. Again, I am the only candidate with 20+ years of educational experience. I am the only candidate that resides in the Hinsdale South attendance area. I am certified in our state elementary teacher. I am a secondary certified math teacher, and I am also licensed in principal. I am confident that you see my experience within school systems, someone who understands not only school systems, but also understands the importance of building relationships, trust, and making sure that we are forging ahead. I have a clear understanding of what it means to be a board member in terms of holding the administration accountable, what it means to look for a highly qualified superintendent, and what a 5-year strategic plan needs to look like in order to, again, ensure that every student in D86 has an equal opportunity to the academic pathways that each student chooses. My platform in these past few months is someone who has that historical context of having been in the D86 area for the past 30+ years, who has met with every single board member, who has met with key administrative leaders, who has met with key community members just in the past 2.5 months, and who has dug deep and used my analytical skills and understanding school systems. I have a clear vision of the future, and I believe it is bright, and I know I'm counting on all of you to vote for me on April 4th. Thank you.
I think it really comes, well, let me just thank the Hinsdalean for putting this event on tonight. Thank all of you for coming and taking time out of your week to spend with us and listen to our answers and why we feel that we're qualified to be your next Board of Education. 2 simple questions. What do you want the next 10 years to look like, and who do you trust to turn this around? I encourage each of you to, again, look at those data points that are on my election sheet back there that show you where we were before, what we're actually able to achieve, and where we are today. Who of us here at the table do you trust to turn that around? Name's Andrew Catton. Vote number 4 on April 4th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's give a round of applause to all of our candidates. As we said at the beginning, it takes not just guts and courage, but also commitment and kindness to run for any type of office, so we appreciate it. I also want to thank the Hinsdalean, Pam, Jim, and Ken. Don't take the gift of a good community newspaper that celebrates all the positive things in our community. Don't take that gift for granted. If you're a business, advertise with them. If you're just a plain old resident like me,